So the RTX 3050, don't buy it. So the RTX 3050 launched back in January of 2022 for a price tag of $249. Now, while that was on the cheaper side of brand new cards, unfortunately, a year later, the used market isn't really much lower than the original MSRP of the 3050, which is really the root of most of the 3050's problems. That being said, it did feature 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which was a nice little bump from the previous generation cards like the 1660 Super with 6 gigs or even the 2060s that had 6 gigabytes. Having a 3050 with 8 gigabytes will benefit some people in certain circumstances, though more on that later. For the test bench, we did use a Ryzen 7 5700G, 8 cores, 16 threads. No, this isn't the top of the line Ryzen 5000 generation CPUs. This is an APU. So 5700G, for those of you that may not be aware, does not perform as well as just the CPUs like the 5700X, for instance. However, for a card like the 3050, it is more than enough to push the GPU as far as it will go. For RAM, we have 32 gigabytes, a 2x16 gigabyte kit running at 3200 megahertz, and we were testing at 1440p today because at this point, I would argue if you're spending $250-ish on a GPU, as cheap as 1440p monitors are, I would really encourage you to get a 1440p monitor because not only are price-wise are they way down from what they once were, but if you're trying to allocate money in a new setup, I think you're going to get a really nice user experience if you pair a decent 1440p monitor with a card like an RTX 3050. And of course, if you're running a game where it can't get very high frame rates, you can always knock the resolution down, knock settings down, that sort of thing. But overall, if you're playing a lot of esports titles in particular, 1440p, much crispier. Starting off with CSGO, this was predictably a really good experience. We have a solid CPU configuration paired with plenty of RAM and a very capable graphics card, so the RTX 3050 was able to achieve about 215 FPS on average. 1% low was down there at 130, and the 0.1% low was down there at 104. But basically, this was a really good experience, so if your end game is to just play CSGO, you're in great shape with this card. Another fast-paced title that I looked at was Doom Eternal, once again at 1440p on high settings. The average was 112, 1% low of 78, 0.1% low there at 66. And once again, this was a really good experience where, yes, the frame rates may not be being driven crazy high with the RTX 3050, but frankly, even the 0.1% lows are above 60 FPS. There is no perceptible lag, stutters, hitches, or anything like that in the gameplay. If you're playing this title, not only is it going to look really good at 1440p, but it's going to feel really good as well while you're playing the game. Hogwarts Legacy was a little bit less optimistic in the results. However, you of course do have quite a bit of room to knock settings down, knock resolution down, or even enable some super sampling technologies or upscaling technologies rather. So that's not really a big concern here. The average FPS was 49, 1% low was above 30 there at 37, and as well as the 0.1% low at 34. So although this title was not being driven at super high frame rates, this was with no upscaling at all like NVIDIA's image scaler or FSR or Intel's technology. That was with none of that enabled. So if you do require higher frame rates, you do have options for Hogwarts Legacy. And if you just want to run it natively at 1440p resolution, this was more than playable. And then we get on to The Witcher 3, which interestingly enough is a really good game to push computer hardware, especially with the next gen update. So with no upscaling technologies at all, just running the 1440p resolution natively, the average frame rate barely broke 30 FPS at 1440p on medium settings at 32 FPS, 1% low there at 27, 0.1% low was at 24 FPS. However, just like other games, The Witcher 3 does give you the ability then to upscale using some of these other technologies. In this particular case, using DLSS on the quality preset, we're able to get an average frame rate bumped up to 49 with the 1% low at 41 and the 0.1% low at 34. So at least with this title in particular, I would highly recommend if you have a 3050, I would take advantage of DLSS. It still looks good, the game looks great, and you get a much better frame rate where instead of just scraping along with the bare minimum of roughly 30 FPS, you are seeing the frame rate well into the 40s most of the time, which gives you at least a pretty smooth experience and makes the game definitely playable. No problems, no questions asked. So earlier I mentioned that this car, the RTX 3050, is a really tough recommendation right now in early-ish 2023, and that's just because of price. Like, this card is a solid gaming GPU, and you can have a fantastic experience in the vast majority of titles out there playing your games, even at 1440p on this card. The issue that this GPU has is it has competition. Like, if you're buying it brand new for $250, you would be silly not to just abandon it altogether and go get an RX 6600 for similar money. And if you're trying to save money on the used market, once again, you would be silly to purchase an RTX 3050 because there are cheaper options that perform just as well, if not better than it, for significantly cheaper. And to give you some sort of reference here, the 3050, the cheapest ones that I could find on eBay as of the time of recording, were still over $200, whereas you can get more performance from an RTX 2060, and if you want almost equal performance to the 3050, you can get yourself a GTX 1660 Super or a 1660 Ti and spend only about $110 or $120 instead of that $210 to $220 price tag. So the gist of it is this. This is a really solid gaming card. If you already have one, you should be happy with your RTX 3050. It's probably serving you just fine. If you're buying one though, unless you're getting sort of a local deal that's just a one-off deal that seems to be much better than the market rate for the 3050s, yeah, I can't recommend paying what these are currently going for on the market because they're too expensive. But of course, that is just my experience with the RTX 3050. Good card, bad price, but I do want to hear from all of you, especially any of you out there that happen to own an RTX 3050. Are you still happy with the card? Are you looking to upgrade the card? Did it explode your computer? Let us know in those comments down below. And while you're down there, go ahead and hit that like, share, subscribe. All those things are super helpful for the channel. I'll go ahead and let YouTube queue up some more videos from my channel for you to watch. I'm Shane with Hoosier Hardware, and I'll see you all in the next video.